And we're back once again, only on it's Last Call. Last Call to the alcohol, only on the LastCallPodcast.com. And joining me once again, as always, we love having him on because, again, in the world of MMA, we need somebody to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. And also give some hot takes and admit, whether we're wrong when he's right, and even start going off on some F-bomb rants, which I love. I give you once again from Heavy on Sports, the MMA Oddsbreaker podcast, and all around from the Twitter MMA Insider Analyst Guru himself. I give you Marcel Dorff. So Marcel, let's jump right in here, and the first thing we had to discuss is this guy right here. That's right, Quillin Salkild. Well, he ran roughshod over poor Mateusz Gamrot. We thought it was going to be a competitive fight. We thought it was going to be tough, and it lasted all of 4 minutes, 25 seconds. Round one, got the takedown, a rear naked choke, performance of the night. Is it now time to admit that Quillin Salkild is the real deal now?
I mean, I was very impressed. Absolutely. The thing is, I was like, this is maybe a little bit too early for him fighting a guy like Mateusz Gamrot, who only lost to Oliveira by finish, right? So I was like, he might have to finish Gamrot here if Gamrot's going to wrestle. But I mean, he even finished him on the ground by submission. Super impressive. What can you say? I didn't see it happening like that. I thought that Salkild had a chance, but I didn't pick him. I picked Gamrot last week. And yeah, I'm very impressed by what he showed. I think he asked for Benoit Saint-Denis, but in my opinion, that's a step backwards. To be really honest, I think he should aim for somebody like Paddy, maybe. That would make a lot of sense. Yeah, I'm legit thinking that. I think he should aim higher.
Wow. I mean, I was going to say, Benoit Saint Denis is now in the doghouse of Marcel Dorff. One loss, and all of a sudden you're like, yeah, Benoit
Thanks.
Denis just sucks.
Nah,
That guy's horrible.
He's not in the doghouse, but I mean, do you think Benoit Saint-Denis is a step up from Mateusz Gamrot? I don't think so, to be honest. I
I'd
think
say,
he's
yeah, just because he has more power. So, I mean, again, if Quillin Salkild gets a little bit, full of himself, Benoit Saint Denis can separate him from his senses.
yeah. We disagree on that. I think I think Benoit's a good fighter, but if you compare him to Gamrot, I would pick Gamrot. You know what I mean? So. Yeah, we differ in that opinion. That's okay, but I think he should aim higher. He got now the hype with him. He also got the name on his record as well, which should allow him to shoot higher. And yeah, why not? He looked really good. I was really impressed what I saw.
Well, since we're shooting higher, how about this? I'm going to throw this out there. I'm getting wild and crazy here. You're going to go, Chris, slowly your roll, but how about Charles Oliveira versus Quillin Salkild? Let's do that. He wants a big, sexy fight, and we're going to get to Charles later on. His dance card seems to be like, all right, I was going to take on this guy, but no, he's tied up. This guy's injured. Yeah, I'm not getting Gaethje anytime soon, probably. So, hey, why not Quillin Salkild versus Charles do Bronx Oliveira?
Yeah, I think that's too early, but I wouldn't be against it. Because you got the two guys who finished Gamrot. Charles doesn't have a fight now. He's obviously for obvious reasons he isn't fighting now. But I mean, if Salkild wants to come back at the end of the year, and maybe they will use Charles to headline the Brazilian card, which is coming up, hasn't been announced yet. So I don't know. We'll see. But yeah, for sure, I like that fight as well. Although probably Charles wants to have somebody in the top three, or maybe even the title fight. But if they make the Salkild Charles fight, I'm all for it. I have no problem with it. Um, because Salkild already showed to me, this is, by the way, a crazy picture here, what you have. He showed to me that he can hang with these kind of guys and even finish in the first round. So yeah, I'll be interesting to see it. Yeah.
So when we were talking about Paddy Pimblett, about a year and a half ago, you're like, I don't know if this kid's the real deal. I want to see him. Do you feel that way about Quillin Salkild, or are you looking at him going, he might be the next UFC light heavyweight championship champion? That's not out of the realm of possibilities.
I don't know, man. To be honest, I have higher hope for Quillin than I have for Paddy. So I think Paddy is decent, at least much better than I thought he was at first. But with Quillin was like when he fought the Contender Series, I was talking to Adam, and Adam was impressed, and I was like, yeah, I'm not that impressed to be really honest against Gage Young. He won, he got the contract. I was like still on the fence, but he showed in UFC, man. He got six wins, 5 finishes, only one fight going to a decision, and all these other fights in the first round finish. So I mean, he proved a lot so far, I think, and I think he has a high ceiling. He's also still not he's not that old. He's still pretty young. This is an interesting guy, and he's fun to watch. And I have high hope for him, higher hopes than I have for Paddy Pimblett. So yeah.
I feel like it's a backhanded compliment. You're praising one guy, you give the other guy like a backhand, and like,
Not
that is
really.
why I love this guy, people.
No,
So Mateusz Gamrot, where do you put him? I mean, do you give him King Green, Michael Chandler? Like, what he does everything the UFC wants him to do, and he's still good enough to be in the top 15. So what, I guess, is next for him?
Mateusz is kind of in a horrible spot. He's not the youngest anymore, and if he's going to lose against these guys like a Salkild, then I'm kind of worried about it. I was like, Mateusz is not on the decline yet. You can lose to Charles Oliveira. But losing to Salkild, and maybe Salkild is like the next big thing. It's possible. So, but this was the first time I had something like, oh, Gamrot might be declining a little bit here. How he fought. So. Yeah, I mean, you can. It depends what the UFC wants. Does the UFC want to keep him around where he is right now? You can still match him up against guys who are also in the top 15. But if the UFC is like, yeah, maybe he is on the decline, they match him up again with somebody who is a little bit lower in the top 15, or maybe even not top 15 rank, who they have high hope for. So, lightweight has always been stacked. It's a good division. You got a lot of options. He's not going to get a step up in competition, obviously, next. So we'll see, I guess, who they match him up with. I don't think they will match Bobby Green. I would be surprised. But yeah, we'll see, man. It depends on what the UFC wants with him. And I think the UFC is probably going to try to build prospects of his back, because I don't see him making it to the top anymore, to be really honest. And it's too bad, because I think he's really good. And maybe he came a little bit too late to the UFC, I think. But yeah, he's still a great fighter. He beats still like 80-85% of the roster, I think. But yeah, there are just guys who are better than him right now. It is what it is for Mateusz.
Well, speaking of, it is what it is. We thought this was going to be just like a good old fashioned fight between two journeymen, and well, we got a good old fashioned fight between two journeymen. Diego Ferreira with the unanimous decision victory over Billy Quantrillo. Got first off, let's ask a big question for you, Marcel. Did it deserve fight of the night, or should that have gone to a fight on the prelims instead?
It was a fun fight, but fight of the night, my ass. The clear fight of the night was Gigi Canuto against Carol Forum. That was the fight of the night. The very first fight on the card. And the UFC often don't give it to them because they want to keep the poor, so they rather give it to some guys who are on the main card. I think it's pathetic, these girls deserve to get the fight of the night. They didn't get it, and I wonder if there was somebody from the UFC matchmakers at the arena yet, or at the Apex yet, to watch the first fight, because it would be the first time that the first fight or the second fight gets completely looked over because somebody wasn't there yet in the crowd, or one of the matchmakers. About this fight, yeah, it was a fun fight, but it was very, how do you say that? Diego Pereira just picked the shot, and Billy Quarantillo. Listen, I love Billy. Billy, one of the nicest guys in MMA, but he kind of did the Homer Simpson thing where he kept going forward without any defense. Got a lot of punishment, but not of damage from Ferreira, and I saw people have him 1-1 going into the third. I had 2-0 for Ferreira, so I had something like Billy needs a finish. And yeah, I mean, Ferreira kind of slowed down, obviously, because Billy kept pushing the pace. But the thing is, like, Ferreira still landed the best shots, because Billy barely defended. So I had 30-27 for Diego Ferreira. It was a fun fight, but it wasn't better than the first fight of the night, in my opinion.
So is this a rebirth for Diego Ferreira, or is this just he took on a guy, as you said, no defensive plan except I guess use his face for his defense?
Yeah, I mean, the thing with Diego is like Diego is not the youngest, he's in his 40s. He had a smart game plan, and Billy Q didn't have a smart game plan. Billy Q's game plan was to gas him out probably, but the problem is he started to gas in the third round when Billy already 2-0 behind, and even the third round, Diego won the third round, So I think I saw Billy's statement Q online, like if it was a 5 round, I might win that fight. Then he still needed the finish, So. And like I said, I love Billy Q, but I think it was a clear win for Ferreira this one. So yeah.
All right, is this apropos where I can go? All right, let's match Diego Ferreira with Jim Miller. Is this one of those fights where you're like, all right, I can get on board with that one?
I can get on board with Jim Miller fighting Diego. I can get on board with Jim Miller fighting Billy Q. I can get on board with both. So yeah.
Well, one guy who will not be fighting anymore, unfortunately, it's poor Darren Elkins. Well, let's talk about the positive. We had Yadier Del Val came out guns a blazing, 35-second knockout, TKO, straight left hand, just boom goes dynamite, and sent Elkins out. And this is a good bounce back win for Yadier Del Val. He looked very good. Granted, it was 35 seconds, and it's against a guy who was saying this is my final fight. But hey, I guess we have to go. All right, that's an excellent performance by the Cuban missile himself.
I mean, Yadier did really good. He got him out of there early. I didn't expect that to happen. To be really honest, I expect Yadier to win, but not like that. I was actually more kind of sad for Elkins to go out like that. It's he's known for like taking a lot of bad damage, being durable, and then in his last fight he's going out in 35 seconds. It's crazy. But yeah, I mean, I was happy early on in the week when Elkins was like, "This is my final fight, and you won't see me at the BKFC." I was like, "Praise the Lord." Um, and listen, man, everybody who has watched the sport for a long time loves Darren Elkins. This is not because, if it's not because of the fights, it's because he's a really good dude. He's a hardworking guy, and I mean, why wouldn't you like him? Like, he's a really likable character, in my opinion. So kind of sucked to see him go out like that. I'm happy the UFC at least gave him how do you say that? An interview afterwards. They also showed a little bit of a package before the fight, even. So that's nice. Yeah, what can you say? It was the end of his career. Didn't went out how he wanted to go out, I think. But it is what it is. Like, retirement fights barely go a good way. It doesn't happen often. So, and for Yadier, good win, good bounce back fight after that horrible fight against Jordan Levitt. So, yeah.
What is Elkins' legacy? I mean, he's not going to be that guy who you think of. Oh yeah, top 10 fighter. He's not Cub Swanson. He's not Michelle Watterson. But this is a guy we talked about. Like, he's been around since 2010 in the UFC. I mean, his first win in the UFC is against Dwayne Ludwig, who is a coach now. We're old enough to remember when he took on Pat Curran, in the independent scene. This is a guy who's fought like everybody in this division, from Chad Mendes, Jeremy Stevens, Charles Oliveira, Michael Johnson, Volkanovski, Ricardo Lamas, Cub Swanson himself. Like, again, for a guy who was a pipe fitter for most of his UFC career while he was training, is he one of the last guys we'll see? Like, all right, he is the throwback fighter where have contract, will travel, won't do anything flashy, but I will come and you will get your money's worth.
Yeah, pretty much. I think you summed it up pretty well. Like, I think Adam asked me yesterday, will he be in the Hall of Fame? I was like, no, he won't. But he will be remembered by a lot of UFC and MMA fans, like a guy who always came to fight, always tried to make entertaining fights. I mean, my most memorable moment for Darren Elkins might be like his comeback victory over Mirsad Bektic. Getting destroyed for almost the whole fight and then pulling out of nowhere, getting the stoppage. I mean, that was amazing. And it's almost typical Darren Elkins, like he always got damaged a lot in the fight. His name is a damage. He got a tattoo on his chest. But yeah, I mean, good win or good going out for him. He had a good career. Wasn't like a top level guy or whatever, but he always came to fight. He was entertaining, and the fans loved him, and they still do. So yeah, wish him nothing but the best. Great dude.
This was not the greatest fight, but it was a great performance in terms of want to see a step up. Alexia Thayanara defeating Amanda Lemos by unanimous decision. Look, it's one of those fights. If you're a young, contender, you need to show you can do. Beat a KG veteran. Just show that you'll go into deep water. That you can handle anything he throws. Did she impress you in this fight in terms of just she never seemed to, get flustered. She never seemed to get frustrated if, plan A wasn't working.
No, not really impressed, but I mean, she got the win. The only thing that kind of annoyed me was like people saying like, I don't listen. I don't think she deserves a title shot of a win like this. Don't get me wrong, But you have the same people who are saying that Jillian Robertson deserves a title shot with a win over Amanda Lemos. She got the title shot with the win over Amanda Lemos, which was a close fight as well, you know. And now people are shitting this. Those same people shitting on Tainara after beating Lemos, like, no, she's far away from a title shot. Those people can suck my dick. But at the same time, I don't think this was enough for a title shot at all. Don't get me wrong. That's a good win for her. So she moves up in the rankings. The thing is, like, there are a lot of other competitors as well. They're like a Fatima Klein, and that's a difficult one. That's a really difficult one, I think, for her. So we'll see. But Lemos is kind of done. As a contender in the division, I think she's kind of done.
Could Lemos get let go then? I mean, again, you said she's nearly 40 years old. This is now, her third straight loss, 4 in the last 5 fights. Only win was against Yasmin Lucindo. I mean, could we see the UFC just go, you know what, it's time to move on? We had a nice run, but this is about it.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised with that because she's not on a 10+ 10 contract, so that wouldn't surprise me at all.
So all right, so if not Fatima Klein, who do you give Thainara next? Do you give her maybe Tatiana Suarez, Verena Yanderova? I mean, who would be like your ideal next step for the young Brazilian?
I would go for Fatima Klein.
All right. So this was the other fight of the night performance, and I know you're going to have thoughts on that. Ty Miller defeated Billy Ray Goff by knockout, TKO, with 15 seconds to go into round 3. So let's ask this question because I know you're gonna ask it here. Is this Dana White privilege? Is this the UFC going ho 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 ho? We're getting a little bit of a chubby in our pants. Knockout by an undefeated prospect? Check. Bonus money. I mean, I can hear you going like, that got a bonus performance. So, is this Dana White privilege?
Agree with the Dana White privilege here. I think Ty Miller is only his second fight in the UFC, and Billy Ray Goff ain't bad or anything, but Ty Miller was like a level above him in this fight. It looked good. I don't mind the bonus for Ty Miller, not at all. I think the fight should have been stopped at the end of the second round. I also don't understand what the coroner was saying, like, just keep running. Really weird. But yeah, good win for Ty Miller. Was it like anything flashy in my opinion? Because like it was not very competitive in my opinion as well. But Ty Miller, he looked good, And I mean, who do you want to match him up with? You know what I mean? It's not like a bad matchup. I thought before when I saw the match, I was like, okay, decent, But maybe I'm a little bit higher on Billy Ray Goff than a lot of people that they think like it's like Dana White privilege. I don't know. I don't see it. We'll see this next fight. If they give him somebody like equal level of Billy Ray or maybe less, then I can see the Dana White privilege. But here, I have no problem with it. I'm sorry, man. I have some cough. I don't know what it is.
No worries. While you're coughing here, I'll quickly recap just the rest of the finish. You can say, well, this should have gotten instead. We had Miles John beating Gianni Vasquez by TKO at 3:09 of round 1. Juliana Miller getting a rear naked choke over Ravenna Oliveira at round 1. We had Jose Montahana defeating Louis Sutherland by submission neck crank in round 1 of the prelims, and a fight which a lot of people are talking about the ending. Dayar Nozage defeating Bruno Lopez by uppercut left hook knockout in the first round with 1 second left. Should one of those have gotten the bonus instead of the Miller versus Goff?
I mean, let's go DR. Not really, in my opinion. Montana could be like new guy in the UFC, got a good win. That was a possibility. Maybe Miles Jones with the comeback. Not necessarily, man. I don't mind the bonus for Ty Miller. I mean, I don't know. Did he rob you from your school money back in the day or something that you don't want to get any
No,
money?
usually you vote. You're like, oh yeah, you won your second fight in the UFC against a guy who should have, and you got bonus money, and you got put on the main card. Ho ho ho! Usually that's like, and he's a good-looking young kid. I can hear you go, Dana White privilege.
Yeah, I mean,
Like Tommy McMillan, you're like, oh, that's Dana White privilege right there, buddy.
yeah, I don't know, man. I don't know, but I don't think so this time.
All right, so final thoughts on this card. Was it a good card, great card, underwhelming? Like, if you had to give it on a scale of like A to F, how would you grade this UFC Apex card?
I would say a 6.57. So I think it was decent.
All right. Let's get to some non-UFC fight news or the fight action news. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. To make both me and Marcel feel old as hell, Bella Mir has signed with the UFC for a Dana White Contender Series fight. We're getting old, Marcel, when we can remember. Oh yeah, we saw your father fight, and oh yeah, now you're fighting. All right, so let's ask a big first question here: can she save the women's division in terms of being that star they've missed since maybe the Holly Holm, Amanda Nunez prime, Ronda Rousey era?
We will see that if that's the case. I like Bella Mir. I always liked her when I saw her fight. It was fun that she also did the UFC BJJ, where when she subbed her opponent, she did the same thing what her dad did after he subbed, I think, Tank Abbott. Um, yeah, I mean, looking forward to what she's going to do. She's on week 3 of the Contender Series. Can she be a star? I think she definitely can be. And comparable to Ronda, at least she's not a complete bitch, and she's actually a nice person. So, yeah, she can be loved by the UFC fans, I think, for sure. So, yeah, I'd love to see her do well. I think she has all the talent. And she has a big advantage with having Frank Mir as her dad, because like he can show her how and how to go along with the attention she will get in the UFC. You know, Frank Mir is a fucking legend. He's such an underrated heavyweight. I don't know if he's in the UFC Hall of Fame yet, but he should be. Yeah, I mean, I'm looking forward to her fight on week 3.
You brought up he can help her with the pressure. How much pressure is there on her? Because Dana's already in love with her. The media's in love with her. I mean, she's this NCAA wrestling champion, BJJ black belt. She is. Like ESPN the magazine has already said she's the future. Like, how much pressure is there on somebody who's not even 23 years old? People are like, oh yeah, she's going to be the next big star. She's going to be this and that, and she hasn't even fought a UFC match yet.
Yeah, there's a lot of pressure on her, but I think she will be able to handle it. She's been in the spotlights even when she wasn't 18 yet, I think, because she's the daughter of Frank Mir and people are watching her, like how she does. And people know about her, even outside the sport. And it's interesting, to see how she's going to do. I think she will do pretty well. And yeah, we'll see. At least she will be a threat on the ground for sure. We've seen that. So yeah, and she got an opponent she should be able to get the win against. So yeah.
Personal question for you, Marcel. Do you feel old yet? I mean, you're like, holy crap. I remember your father covering your father when he was fighting, and I'm covering you. Like, all of a sudden now, you and I can both feel like, holy crap, we're old.
Bro, the moment I hit 30, I started to count back. So I'm actually 37. I always tell people I'm 23. So just for fun. So when I got like from my uncle and aunt, I got like a present last time when it was my birthday. They wrote on the present, "Happy birthday, Marcel, with your 23rd birthday." It's just for fun, you know. But yeah, of course, we're all getting old, man. It's crazy, you know. I remember when I was in school, and there was somebody who was like fucking 19. I was like, oh, that guy is old already, you know, fucking 19, or this guy is 25, fucking old. And now you're like 37, or yeah, I'm 37. And I'm like 37 isn't even old, you know. I don't even feel like 37. What's that, you know? So people always say like, it's bothering you. It doesn't bother me, but I just don't feel old. You know what I mean? So yeah, it's crazy.
All right, let's get ready. Marcel's going to have a lot of hot takes on this. That's right. We thought we were going to get Arman Tsarukyan versus Justin Gaethje. Dana White went, nah, bitch. You're not even getting, Charles Oliveira. You get Mauricio Ruffy September 19th, the Crypto Arena in Los Angeles. And I can hear you go, bullshit. You are ready to even sit to call Dana and go, this is number one bullshit. Why are you screwing Arman Tsarukyan? So you can get out of your system, Marcel. How pissed are you about this fight, and how much are you going, we need an investigation into Dana's hatred of Arman?
I'm not actually, because there's a pretty obvious reason why they booked this one, you know. So the original plan was to do Armin against Charles Oliveira, 5-rounder co-main event. That was the original plan, you know. But our Charles is not fighting, definitely because like his best friend Alan Nascimento passed away, so he's not fighting. And UFC needed a replacement, you know. Rufi, when they announced that fight, Rufi accepted the fight on that day, you know. So it's pretty much like put together on a short notice. I have no problem with it. I think Armin needs to fight, you know. It's been such a long time since he fought. I think it was in Qatar against Dan Hooker. Like it's super vague, and it was like a quick finish as well. So he needs to fight. Rufi gets a massive opportunity again from the UFC because they love him. But this is going to be a bad matchup for him, dude. You know, this is like they're not going to be a good matchup. So unless he one punch Armin can knock him out, then Ruffy can win. But that's his only way to win in this fight. You know, I think Armin styles on him in this fight, so it's not a good matchup. But for the UFC, it makes sense. You know, you're like, fuck it. Listen, if Armin wins, he's still the number one contender, so we have to give him probably a title shot. And if Ruffy wins, we got our guy who we love being in the top contender, and then he for sure gets a title shot. So, yeah, it's a win-win for the UFC, pretty much.
You can admit it. You know what happens. If Rufi knocks out Armin, Dana White will probably go into the cage and give Rufi a big kiss on the cheek. Like, yes, you got rid of him. Now I can fire Armin for multiple reasons. Because I know that you're being polite, but there's a part of me that's like, God damn it, could have just made Armin versus Justin Gaethje, but no. Dana's trying to throw like another curveball.
Of course, Dana hopes Rufi wins, man. It's pretty obvious, you know. And he won't probably kiss him. He also probably gives him a hand job afterwards, you know. So, you know that. So I wouldn't be surprised me at all. But no, the thing is, like, it's pretty clear to me, you know. It's either like Rufi somehow knocks him out, you know, early on, or Armin styles on him and it gets a late finish, you know, or maybe even a quick finish if he gets him to the ground, which he will probably. So, yeah.
Could this fight still fall apart? Because let's face it, there's always a chance Armin gets arrested for something or gets in trouble for something. I mean, I know he's your friend and you like it, but he keeps on like wrestling, social media influencers, driving people off of RAF mats, get the brawls. I mean, again, I know he's your friend, but even you would be like, Armin, you got issues. Anger management. Maybe, do some, do some like a haiku. Something where you're not really trying to get arrested or in trouble almost every week.
I would say just start to stay out of trouble, you know. It's not that hard, you know, to stay out of trouble. Believe me, it's really not that hard, you know. Maybe you should call Cedricus Dumas and ask him how hard it is. I'm just kidding. But yeah, it's not that hard to stay out of trouble, you know. So yeah, we'll see, man. I mean, it's still like how long? Still like a month and a week. So yeah, we'll see. We'll see.
All right, let's get ready. Let's get back to take a little quick break here while we do some fixing of here. But we have UFC 330 coming up here, so let's ask the big question as we're talking about this. It's Islam Makhachev versus Ian Machado Gary for the World Championship. Will this fight be competitive? Or are you looking at this going, all right, well, it should be an easy win for Islam?
Yeah, it's not going to be an easy win because Ian Gary has a high fight IQ. Listen, despite I'm not a big fan of his antics, because like, dude, spare me your stories about crying during Disney, or women should rule the world, or the world is plant-based. Get the fuck out of here, dude. I don't give a shit about that. But listen, he's a good fighter. You got to give him credit for it. He has a high fight IQ. He knows what he does, and he knows how to win rounds. I don't think it will be an easy fight for Islam. I think Islam wins. Because I think he's on the level of his own. But Gary's good. Got to give the guy credit. Never been a massive fan, but yeah.
Are you surprised that Gary got the fight vote? Because the UFC had other options. Like they could have made a more fun fight instead of Ian Machado Gary. Instead, they went, all right, let's give the grappler, a guy who is kind of boring. Like I was surprised they didn't go, hey, you know what? Let's just throw Carlos Praetus in there because that'll be a fun friggin' fight.
I mean, that would have been possible, but I mean, are you surprised? To be honest, they don't. That's my question to you. Are you surprised they don't?
I am because you, as you said, the UFC that really is about sports entertainment and Islam
Yeah.
Makhachev versus Ian and Machado Gary. That's not fun. That's not entertainment. That could be like an MVP kind of boring fight.
The thing is, like, it's a deserved title shot for Gary. I'm not his biggest fan, like I said, but it's a deserved title shot. I have much more problem with the co-main event than I have with the main event, to be honest.
Oh, we'll get to that in a second. Trust me, I know you're gonna have a big problem with the co-main event.
Yeah, it's much worse in my opinion. But the main event makes sense. Makhachev as the champion, Gary deserved the spot as the challenger. I have no problem with it. As the Morales fighter, the Pratis fight, 10 times sexier, 100%. But Gary deserves a shot. I have no problem with it.
The Women's Strawweight Championship, the co-main event. It is Mackenzie Dern versus Jillian Robertson. Just for all those who know, Marcel hates this fight. And it's not because Jillian Robertson is a ginger. That's a whole different story for a different day. It involves a social media influencer who had red hair and wanted to do some things. Even Marcel went, no, that's NSFW. But you really hate this fight. So explain to the fans why. Why is this a fight you're like, no, shouldn't have been made?
It's not hate. It's more like, listen, Dern is champion now, The other best girl in the division is Zhang Weili. We still haven't got an update about her. It's really annoying me. And then they give her Jillian Robertson. Listen, Jillian Robertson has a good winning streak. Don't get me wrong, but her best win is fucking Amanda Lemos, And it wasn't an amazing performance. It was like 50-50 almost, So for me, this is like almost Dana White privilege, in my opinion. Like, oh, Dana's good with Dean Thomas. Dean Thomas is our coach. Let's give it to Jillian. That's how I feel about this one. And they're also like, oh, so we can legitimize Mackenzie for a first title. Jillian. Everybody fucking knows this fight should have been Mackenzie against Zhang Weili, and if it wasn't Zhang Weili, it should have been Tatiana Suarez. So. And not Jillian Robertson. But obviously, they want to either solidify Dern as a champion, as a defending champion, or they would think it's cool when Robertson wins, so they have another Canadian champion. One of the two, So I think Dern wins here because for the simple reason Dern's striking is even better than Jillian's striking. Jillian really needs to have it from her ground game or submissions, but unfortunately for her, Dern is there good as well. So. The striking is pretty much the difference between the two, in my opinion. I think Dern wins. Does he get a finish? Maybe. I would say decision after 5 rounds, but it's like, yeah, who cares? Almost. No disrespect, but
I feel like you're taking everything on poor Jillian because, as you said, Zhang Weili is just unavailable for reasons. As you said, Tatiana Suarez looked horrible against Zhang Weili, so we can't give it to her. And God damn it, I know. Look, I understand that you know the thing with you, the potato peeler, you know the Instagram model with the red hair. Look, is not all gingers are bad people. Some of them are just crazy, but not all of them. So I feel like you're just projecting on poor Jillian because she is a ginger.
Brother, you got to tell me, like, Joe Robertson gets a win after a win over Lemos. She gets a title shot. Tatiana Suarez beat Lemos and then beat Lupi Godinez. She got actually 2 wins. She got another win after the Lemos. How is Robertson deserving of a title fight? I don't see it. She got a great winning streak. Don't get me wrong. But put Robertson against Suarez and Suarez beats her. So I just don't agree with Dern against Robertson for a title. That's my opinion. I know that opinion. That's nothing because I have something against Jill Robertson. Nothing at all. She's a good fighter, but it's just like almost like a privilege here that she gets this title shot. I don't see why she should get the title shot. I'm just being honest, and I have nothing against her. I wish her all the best. I hope she does well, but I don't see it.
Well, if you're not big on that co-main event, the rest of the card it looks kind of. So let's start with it is Charles Johnson versus Jose Ochoa at a bantamweight scrap. This just feels like, all right, well, Dana's satisfying the flyweight people. Like, hey, we need more flyweights on the card. So Charles Johnson, who is coming off a loss to Azu Ambalayev, is now taking on Jose Ochoa, who's 9-2, and it just feels like, all right, what are we doing here? Is this a Dana White privilege for Jose Ochoa, who UFC is like, all right, we need to get him on a winning streak, or is this just like, all right, Marcel, we've heard your complaints about flyweights not getting love, so here's a flyweight match you can show some love to.
It's an okay fight. Shouldn't have been on the main card, to be honest. But it's an okay fight. And Charles Johnson, he's a fun fighter. I like Charles a lot. Jose Ochoa is kind of hit or miss. Sometimes I think he looks really good, and then I have the confidence to pick him again, and then he looks really bad. So it's like hit or miss, but also the same thing for Charles Johnson. Sometimes he looks like a world beater, like when he beat Joshua Van and Lodi Kavanaugh, and then you see him against Almabayev and Perez, and he doesn't look good at all. So it's kind of hit or miss. It's an interesting fight. Ochoa is the favorite, I think, rightly so. But yeah, I mean, also very late added to the fight by the UFC. But like we already knew about this fight like for fucking 2 months, and the UFC adds it like last Saturday on the card. It's really weird. But yeah, we'll see. Like I said, this pay-per-view or like numbered card is not very strong. I think the fight what you're going to ask me for the next shouldn't even be on the main card. So
Oh yeah, I was gonna get to that. Like, Mansour Abdul Malik lost his last fight to one of Marcel's own guys, Yusri Balagouri, and that was by knockout. So what do we do? Well, let's reward him with a main event, main card fight against Dustin Zolfis on the fourth fight on the main card. So again, I can hear you go, Dana White privilege. This is bullshit.
So this is actually kind of Dana White privilege. Yes, it is. I like Mansour a lot. I think he's a good fighter. He's still young, not super young, but he's still young enough. And Dustin Stoltzfus is almost kind of like he's kind of on the verge of being out of the UFC. Like he's on that line there. I think the UFC is like we want to build back up. And he needs to win. So we're making this fight. Still, Dustin Stoltzfus can be like a difficult opponent for him, but I expect Mansour to beat him, and the spot on the main card, I don't think it really makes sense, but it shows that the UFC is high still on Mansour, I think.
And last but not least on the main card, this is also a fight Marcel's like, what the hell is going on here? Did Hunter Campbell fall asleep and let the dog pick the fights? Edson Barboza, maybe his final fight, takes on Esteban Ribovics. Both guys also coming off losses, so UFC goes, hey, you deserve a main, PLE live fight. I can hear you look at this card and you're ready to type, a letter to Hunter Campbell going, please resign, you're losing your touch.
So the fight itself is interesting, I think it's a fun fight. You got a guy who's up and coming in Esteban, and you got like a veteran Edson. The only funny thing is like Edson lost his last fight to Jalen Turner, who's on the fucking prelims, But listen, the fight itself is interesting at the same time. Like it's like this would be like really good as a co-main event on an Apex card, or a main event on the Apex card, or a main card fight on the fight night, you know. But this should be actually like with a pay-per-view or a number card. This should be a prelim in my opinion, you know. So you got like Edson Barboza, Rebovic. You can't put it on the main card, but I think on a strong numbered card, it's a featured prelim. Abdul Malik Stoltfus shouldn't be on the main card. Johnson Ochoa wouldn't be on the main card, you know. And the title fights are always on the main card. So the thing is, like, you got like a top-heavy event with Makhachev Gary here, in my opinion. And overall, there are some fun fights. There are also some questionable placements on some prelims, like why the fuck is Earl by the first fight of the night? Nobody knows. But yeah, I mean, the UFC does what it does, you know, and yeah, we'll see.
Is this one of the worst cards for a? It used to be pay-per-view, but let's call it a PLE fight. I mean, I'm looking here.
Yeah.
It's like even the prelims. There's nobody that you're looking at going, all right, well, this is a great little matchup. This is a fight between two like undefeated contenders or two rising contenders. I mean, this fight looks like, yes, come for Islam Makhachev versus Ian Machado Gary. Stay for Mackenzie Dern, Jillian Robertson. Everything else, all right, well, Hunter Cable. My work is done with these two fights. Dog, you get to pick the rest of the fights. Come on, Fido, just like pick everything you want.
I mean, it's an okay card, but not a really good card as it is for a numbered card, like you said, you know. Listen, man, back in the day on numbered cards, you had like fights that matter on the main cards, you know. You had like fucking from the 10 main card fighters, 10 were ranked. Now you had like 4 ranks, and all the 4 who are ranked are in title fights. And it's fucking horrible, actually, you know. Not that ranking always does make a lot of difference, you know, but the thing is, like, listen, for me as a hardcore fan, I fucking watch it anyways. I don't give a shit pretty much. I'm watching it, you know. But for the casual fan, I don't think this is an appealing card at all, you know. Nobody in Europe is going to set their alarm for this card if they're going to watch it. Yeah, maybe for the main event, but that's it, you know. So, yeah, the UFC should do better, man, in my opinion.
All right, so I'm good. Give me the predictions on the two main fight cards, because all the rest of them, as you said, this is bad, this is bad, this is bad. So, Islam Makhachev versus Ian Machado Gary, Mackenzie Dern versus Jillian Robertson. Who wins, and do they win by finish or decision?
Islam Makhachev, either decision or a late finish. I think I'm going with a late finish, 4th or 5th round. I think he can either TKO or submit and like club and sub, you know. That's a possibility. Or a decision, but he's going to win. Mackenzie Dern, I'm picking her by decision. Will be competitive, I think, but won't be amazing, you know. I can give you the other picks as well if you want.
Yeah, but you've already crapped on most of them, so we'll end on a high note. We'll talk about the two big fights and everything else. Well, people, it is what it is, as they say. So, once again, we love having him on because he loves to drop some knowledge, some insight, and sometimes even some rants, which I love. I give you once again from Heavy on Sports and from MMA Icebreaker Podcast. I give you Marcel Dorff. So, Marcel, once again, where can fans check you out at? Where is the Twitter, the website? There's probably a Rumble channel. Where can fans hit you up at?
Yeah, you can find me on BigMarcel24 on Twitter and Instagram. On Pants Down 24 OnlyFans. Just kidding. No, it's not true. You can find me MMA Icebreaker. The live section preview and recaps UFC events with Adam Martin. We also talk about Contender Series there, since that's starting on Tuesday. And my articles on Heavy.com, mixed martial arts section, pretty much, you know. And yeah, thanks for listening, and thanks for having me again. As always, Chris, always fun talking to you. And let's hope the card is better than I expect.
It can't be worse, I say reluctantly here. Once again, ladies and gentlemen, Marcel Dorff, always on the pleasure having you on the show. We come back. We got a lot more going on here, only on this Last Call. Last Call to the Alcohol, only on the Last Call Podcast.com.